Wow.
A post-game show we thought was going to go completely differently.
We live to see another game. Somehow.
I'm going to pull up some texts.
You guys have been watching the Celtics.
Yo, I was actually going to say that as a suggestion. Like, yo, read off these texts that was going off throughout the first half.
If you're going to pull up text, you better pull up your text first.
No. Just you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yo, you had the best ones. What are you talking about?
There's nothing like a John text in the second quarter.
John had his post-game show.
You got to start with the lead singles, man. You can't go with the B track.
Right, Jimmy Toscano, somewhere at about the 2-minute mark. Yeah, they'll lose this game. They deserve to. Bobby Manning, maybe 2 minutes later. This is over.
No, Jimmy has a better one.
Bobby, again, I don't know what we're going to talk about if they don't even try tonight. Jimmy, just that. What exactly. The F was that?
That was that awful turnover between Tatum and Kemba in the first.
Then we start talking about Kanter's tan.
Naturally, devastating tan.
Kanter. Let's
Absolutely.
go.
Shaking my head, Jimmy Toscano. Blame pie round 2.
Oh my!
No,
Bobby Manning. So weird to see this team meltdown and not to care. Wasn't them all year.
Wow.
Family's fight. Smart hates Tatum.
I did say that.
Oh man, the emotions.
I'm actually mad it's tied.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I love.
Who said that?
Begging them to take it again.
I said that.
Oh,
what
man.
a funny game.
Listen, guilty.
We were still mad when the Celtics took like a 4-point lead. You know? Like, it was such a strange game. Like, it took.
I've never seen one like
shake
that.
the anger, right?
John, this was you. I'm not kidding. We're doing a effing 15-minute postgame show. This is what they're going to do. If they're not showing up, we're not staying up late.
Can we? I mean, no, just think
once
about
around the horn.
That.
Fuck these guys. Okay, good night.
It sounds stupid now, but they opened this game 1 for 10 from the field with 9 threes. They looked like they didn't want to be out there. It looked like the bubble escape game.
It was body snatcher shit again. Like,
it was bad.
Who are these guys? Like, who are these guys just walking around the court and like reaching in and fouling and heaving threes early in the clock? Like, what did they do for 48 hours? Like, didn't they like come up with a different strategy? It was so perplexing.
It was,
and then
like,
this was easily from the second quarter. I mean, and through into the third quarter there into the fourth was their best stretch of basketball of the playoffs. Like, that might have been it. It was
no question.
Great defense, attacking, taking what was there. I mean, it was unreal, fighting through picks, and just all of it. It was just, unbelievable.
To me, it started on the defense. When they got those 3-4 stops in a row, I'm like, I don't even care what happens on the other side. They've actually put together 4 stops in a row. Like, that hadn't happened all series.
Not only that, but they flipped the turnover game big time in that second half.
They did.
The Heat started throwing it away.
Yeah.
The turnovers were so much better in this game. I mean, you had, 20
11.
last game? It was
11.
Yeah, okay, 11. Because they had 10, like, when it, maybe you got one garbage one late, but it was essentially 10 turnovers up until the game was out of hand completely. And that really was one of the differences in this game because we were killing them for the sloppiness in that fourth quarter of game 4, whether it was Marcus Smart, Tatum, Brown. I mean, those 3 guys were kind of leading the charge there. And tonight it was completely, second half was completely different. I mean, that first half, you couldn't have drawn up a more frustrating first half of basketball coming off of the game that you just had. I mean, that's why John was reading off those texts. I mean, those texts were all majority was from the first half, obviously. The third quarter, they came up gangbusters.
You guys gave up.
Yeah, John, you were the pillar of hope in that.
I was done by the 9-minute mark of the first quarter.
No, I think the reason we didn't get any text from John because I think he was watching. I think his kids had taken over the TV at that point. I don't even know if he was.
Oh yeah, I was done.
Yeah,
it's so startling. I mean, the Celtics gave up free throws on 30% of possessions in the first half. Offensive rebounds on 30% of the possessions. Like, this was as bad as they've looked all postseason in that first quarter specifically, not the first half. And then by the third quarter, Miami's starting 1 for 10. It's breakout layups, great diagonal passes, drives and kicks for 3. Like, the offense, the defense, it just shifted on a dime. No, I think a lot of this is self-inflicted by Miami, but I think at least 50% is Boston turning it up defensively.
Miami played a dog shit game, but I mean, I was like 3/4 of the way through my why Jayson Tatum is never going to lead a team to a championship column, And I
was ready to say,
and how good was he tonight?
And I had to set it on fire. I was just deep diving Tatum stats, and I was going to kill him.
For me,
he did the same thing. He showed up. And you can't be a transcendent star and do what Tatum's doing in these first quarters. And then he does, and then he completely turns it around. It's unreal.
I'll tell you
what it is.
The 3 possessions at the end of the third when he got free throws on 2 of them and then got to the bucket, I think it was, in the third one. That was, you talk about what he wasn't in the first. That's when he gets back to being the all-star transcendent player. That's what separated this game. Now, it took a little bit more work in the fourth, but at that point when he did that, Dragic punches back a little bit, you start feeling good about them taking this game. And the rebounding, too. You see the rebounding numbers is critical.
But the Tatum, and again, Miami missed a lot of makeable shots, too, and that helps. But, the Tatum thing is incredible because you really can't – he's got – the reason we thought this team had championship aspirations is because – he took it to the next level. And you're like, oh, if Tatum's that guy and everybody else is the guys that they are, that's possible. But he can't not be that guy for long stretches like that. He has to be. Michael Pina had a great text who does the Winning Plays podcast, friend of CLNS.
On CLNS Media.
Love Pina.
Yeah, on CLNS Media, a terrific writer. But great observation. You can't be, if you're Tatum, you can't be, you have to always be the star. If you got to be a two-way player all the time, and you can't take off long stretches like this where you're like kind of a role player, kind of there, kind of not. It's not an option for him anymore. He's ascended to that level. He's got to be that guy always. So it is strange again. 2 games in a row he comes out like this, and then boom, he just. I don't know. What do you guys think it is?
I think he's going to change his pregame routine. I don't know what he does. Maybe listen, I'm a Deuce guy through and through, but maybe he's too involved with the family. He's got to get more locked on to the game, going in there, a little bit more of a killer mentality. But he was a -14 in that first quarter. A -14 is the type of a stat that can put. If you're the superstar and you're a -14, yikes. Plus minus isn't the end-all be-all, but it just goes to show some of these slow starts that he's had.
Yeah.
And the Celtics were, at the end of the day, the Celtics were lucky that the Heat just aren't that great of a team when it comes down to it, because this series should be over the way the Celtics have played the last few games, or the last couple of games, I should say. And I tweeted this. I said, I'm more mad because the Heat aren't that good. And it's not to say, I'm not to take away, their record is their record in the bubble or in the playoffs. And they do play like a team, all the things that you need to do to win. But when it comes down to the talent aspect, the Lakers, they're a really good team. You can argue the Clippers should have been a lot better than how they finished. But the Celtics should be ahead in this series, not behind. So for them to come out the way they did in the second half, again, showed me what they're capable of. It's just a shame that they put themselves in this hole because now there's no room for error now, And
that's the thing. It going back to Toronto, it continues to feel like it's a matter of choice with the Celtics, where it's like if they choose to focus, be aggressive on offense, moving the ball around and attacking, and then taking care of the ball, and then on defense, just keeping the defensive intensity up, not committing fouls, just that. Almost always the results are positive.
Right.
But it's a mentality thing. It's not look, you have games when shots don't fall, fine. But again, it's always a mentality thing with them. Is when they play that way, aggressive on both sides, they're usually creating distance. They've built big leads over 2 of the best teams in the East on a consistent basis when they do that. And then when they don't, and they just go back to 3-3-3-3-3 and
that's what they did.
Yeah.
That's what they did to start the game. Remember, 8 of their first 9 shots.
8 of their first 9 made 1.
And that's their Achilles. That's their Achilles heel. When this team starts to rely on the lazy threes, is it a millennial thing? Maybe it's a millennial thing. Just trying to get the easy. Yeah, Bob,
no, it is a lazy thing to do. even you play pickup one-on-one, you're dying at the park.
I really legitimately answer that question.
No, because I've done it too. I've been dead in a one-on-one game, been like 3 or 4 points a game. Points away, and I'm like, all right, what's the quickest way I can get to the winning score? And I just start launching threes. That is what it is. Like anyone can associate with that. To start the game's a stunner, and that's why I looked at it and said they're done. They want to get out of here. And to some degree, I think Miami got a little too comfortable in front of them, kept them within that 5 to 8 point range. So all of a sudden, the Celtics look up around halftime, and they're within like 2 possessions, string together a couple of makes off turnovers, and all of a sudden it's tied. It's like, what the heck? I looked up late in the second quarter when I already resigned myself to this game being over, saw them within 5 and was like, what's going on here? Like Miami just didn't have the urgency to close it when Boston was screwing around in the first half.
Yeah, it sounds like hero ball. Like that's exactly what it looked like to me in that first quarter. And then it seemed like throughout, even when the Celtics were up big, Marcus Smart is just like, is he gone rogue? Is he just like on his own agenda at times? It seemed like he was making those hero shot attempts again in the first half.
I can't take it.
John,
his turnovers were driving me nuts. The charges is one thing, but some of those careless passes, I mean, it's a bit concerning if you're going to look forward to the next game. Because if Marcus can't play like that, there's no way Celtics going to win if Marcus is playing like that. I'm sorry, but hey, they pulled it up. They pulled it off today. Obviously tonight, Jayson Tatum went nuts in that second half. Attacking the rim, though. See, that's effort. That's the kind of effort I saw.
And who was doing that, Joe Sway? This is why I still defend Smart. He's the guy getting to the rim, making the passes from the 8 assists again.
Not the only one who's getting to the rim. When Tatum in the second half was getting to the rim, Brown was going to the rim all game.
Jaylen was great. So Jaylen was great.
He was great.
Yeah.
I tweeted before the game. I officially apologized to Jaylen. I officially apologized before the game. I said, I'm sorry for saying that Jaylen Brown takes too many shots sometimes. He needs to be the guy to carry the Celtics team if they want to go anywhere. It's in writing. I had to make my formal apology. But I didn't want Jaylen Brown to do it
30 in Game 6. Come on.
Exactly, because listen, nobody else is willing to, sort of carry that load or is able to carry that load. So Jaylen Brown's suddenly become like your consistent guy out there who is physical. He plays both sides of the ball. He turns defense into offense, much like Marcus Smart does, but Marcus Smart is much more erratic on offense with the decision making, with some of the shot selection, turnovers, not so much tonight, but sometimes. And I don't want to say too much because Bobby's got a soft spot in his heart for Marcus. You can't say anything about Marcus Smart when Bobby's on the show because he comes to his defense. But the bottom line is
because he beat my Raptors. I got to show him respect.
Yeah, the bottom line is Jaylen Brown
was tough for you guys.
Was the difference maker, I think, tonight. He was the steady hand when things were borderline going off the rails in the first half.
And who?
Enes Kanter, guys. Come on, guys.
Oh, Kanter. Okay, don't get me
Classic
started.
Kanter experience, walking the tightrope. They put him in for 2 possessions in the fourth quarter.
Once again, Brad
took the hook and went right out of there.
If I was Mark Jackson's producer, when they're saying like, and both he and Van Gundy, and they're like, the Kanter's been great. He's going to play big minutes in the second half. I would start him over Theis even, and I'm like, Brad doesn't do that. I was like over under for Kanter minutes in the second half. I had it at 3. He played
when Kanter comes in, Dragic's eyes are like this, and he beats him every time to the rim or on a step back.
Something like 40 field goal attempts uncontested inside the free throw line. How the hell did he get in there so often?
That's who he is. He's
I
done
know,
that since
but my God, it's like
slices and dices.
He was just all of a sudden. It was like he's looking around. He's like, "Oh, I'm all alone in here."
Right. If not, he'll just dribble in circles for 4 seconds and get wide open. Like
he just done it all the time.
Yeah. If you're on YouTube late tonight, like you got to watch that highlight tape of him with Phoenix that year when they almost made the playoffs. Like this guy's one of the best slashers I've ever seen.
He's great.
And like he just 23 points in 35 minutes. He just paces them. And when Tatum went on that huge run I mentioned, he was right back every single time with a field goal. Now Miami tightened up their rotation a little bit tonight, and that led to foul trouble for Bam, who we'll get to because that was a big change tonight. His play. And Butler was in foul trouble too. So that couple of concerning developments for Miami tonight. And Bam's the biggest of them all.
Bam.
Yeah.
That's the perfect Bobby YouTube rabbit hole is Goran Dragic Suns playoff highlights.
If
You
you
can
have-
get a
Random ass series.
if you're up late tonight watching
Oh,
Suns
Okay, yeah.
YouTube,
that team changed the course of the league because Isaiah went to Boston, Dragic went to Heat, and
Right.
then the freaking Bucks got Bledsoe, which we know what that caused. So, yeah, can we talk about Bam? Because I knew it. I knew the Heat were full of it.
Well, you broke the news, Bobby.
Yeah, they
on the
downplayed
show.
this
Yeah,
like
that's right.
crazy. His
Bobby
arm,
did break the news on the show. His wrist is broken, according to Bobby.
his arm's hanging dead for the last 3 minutes of last game, and he goes to the presser and is like, "I'm fine." They asked Spoelstra. Spoelstra's like, "Yeah, he needed ice on the shoulder, the elbow, it's everything, but he's fine." And then he comes out tonight, 13 points. He'd been averaging 26, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, which is high, but he's a minus 15, worst on the Heat. I didn't feel his impact tonight, and in every other game, he was scoring at will. And think of what Daniel Theis did tonight too. Like there's a little something going on there. Now the wrist probably isn't broken, but if it's 50, 70%, like it definitely seemed to affect him tonight.
You weren't seeing him rolling to the rim and throwing down those alley-oops like they were earlier in the series. So that's
he
something
looked
tells
less
me.
forceful.
That kind of tells me that like he can't throw down, kind of. You know what I mean? Like if he's when you dunk.
Give Tyson props, man. Tyson's playing some good defense too. You
Yeah,
get
that's
him
right.
Oh, I was saying in that fourth quarter, if they go super small the way Theis had been playing, I was going to lose my mind because he was critical tonight on the defensive boards, on the offensive boards, and then those little cuts. His picks, I think Coach Nick did a breakdown of the way he was setting the picks in the early games against the zone wasn't effective. Tonight, he was able to slip into the lane, hit those little jumpers, get Kemba free on the wings. Like, he did so much tonight.
Agree.
Kanter didn't play a second in the second half, right?
No, he came in for
think so,
2
no.
minutes for 2 possessions, and they yanked him right out. Dragic scored on him real quick.
He did?
Yeah, I think it was early in the fourth.
I didn't remember at all because his stat line was less than a minute because
it was about 45 seconds, 2 possessions.
Okay, I missed it. I was texting you guys about being angry about Smart probably.
Yeah, you did have some choice words. But here's the thing. I mean, so Stevens went to Grant and Kanter early in the game after essentially not playing either one of them the game before. Is he still kind of like grasping at things? Sorry, Jimmy,
I don't
went to the
get
one
it.
there, but
I don't get it. Rob Williams' minutes were great last game, and then he didn't play him, and then Kanter was good. They needed it. They needed you know what it was?
He was okay.
It was an offensive issue, not a defensive issue tonight. Even though Miami scored 58 points in the first half, the problem was offense. And they needed somebody to score some freaking layups, And Kanter sometimes just kind of knocks you into that a little bit, Because, he came in and it was immediately layup, first 2 possessions. You're like, look at that.
Right, but they needed that last game too. Like they were freaking awful last game. Like just at that point, Brad Stevens should be throwing the kitchen sink out there, And for I was just surprised. I'm not mad about it. I was glad to see it, but I was surprised to see it.
That's when Kanter came in. We had Grant and Kanter at the same time.
And then Theis came right back in.
What in the world was that?
When was that? That was either
a rare Granter lineup.
I feel like that was
third, maybe.
Or early fourth, somewhere around there. It was so short.
That was so perplexing because Grant like got caught a couple times on Dragic, and he was just nowhere near him.
It was Kanter who got caught on the second possession, and they went right back down. Yeah.
Well, didn't Kanter go in for Grant?
No, they were both.
No, they were there together.
Okay.
They were on the floor at the same time, and I was like,
Yeah,
everyone was exploded. That was right.
I'm telling you,
right.
I think this was what I expected from Stevens when he was down, 3. Like after game 4, what did I say? The way his approach and his substitution, it was almost as if he was already down 3-1. Now you're down 3-1, and he's playing more people. I don't.
He's still trying to figure it out. They went best 5 again, and it didn't work.
But
he's gonna have to keep trying that.
Gordon was bad.
Hey, so I'll give this to him, though. Spoelstra's kind of doing the same thing. Like, they went back to Olynyk tonight. They went back to Iguodala on the wing.
They're trying to find that something there off that
bench. They're throwing back and forth at each other. And Olynyk was okay tonight. Iguodala, I thought, was probably a 0. Like, he had the block on Tatum at the end, but he also gave up a ton to him. His minutes feel a little forced. right now.
But you know what, though? The Celtics essentially played their best 6 guys. For the majority, this was a very short bench.
This came down to 7-on-7, and the Celtics had more.
Exactly. This was a very short bench. I mean, Kanter, Williams, and Wanamaker totaled 22 minutes. So, I mean, you're pretty much playing your best 6 guys, right? I mean, and that's playoff basketball. And I know, and the Celtics have a weak bench to begin with, so it makes it even that much more, like, it makes that much more sense, in my opinion, for them to go heavy on those starters, because when you get into and listen, Brad Wanamaker's had a great, playoff run, and Grant and all those players, they contribute when they do, but at the end of the day, I want to see the starters in there as much as possible. Mix in Smart, obviously, mix in Hayward, whoever, it is at that point. But
yeah, if we think Stevens is second guessing the rotations, I got to hear now. Kanter enters at 2:03 in the third. Tatum hits a couple free throws. Dragic scores on Kanter. Tatum goes to the line again, and then in between the free throws, they took Kanter out. It was from 2:03 to 1:24.
It's weird to coach that scared, though. Again, it happened every single game when they
one bucket
is so short on that second on the bench
quick
big
breather
minute in the second half.
Yeah, Theis got 40 seconds with the 2 free throw trips.
All right, let's. I'm going to play Brad Stevens. Brad
Yeah.
Stevens talking about them being together.
I mean, we're prideful. Like, we want to do well. The 4 teams that are here are really good. They've had great years. They're also in the arena and on the stage where everybody's going to be talking about them and try to dissect them and break them down and all that stuff. So our deal was to come out and play, come out and compete, give it our best shot. And I thought we played pretty well in the second half. But we're going to have to do it again and again because of the position we're in. But we don't get caught up in all that other crap. We just, we're trying to be our best. We care about competing. We care about representing our team and our organization well. And we care about each other. And that's why you compete.
Maybe it was just that he was mic'd up. Brad seemed a little feisty tonight.
Oh, yeah, big time.
He's fired up.
He had it. I mean, he was down to his last option. It's like, okay,
if you heard
angry Brad on you guys, get mad Brad.
He was feisty.
For sure.
He was going at the refs a lot. Mad Brad, I like it.
So he's in the bubble too. We talked about the players. They got their phone. I'm sure he heard a little bit. And if you even heard 10% of the talk around the team the last 2 days, for him especially, it was hot. It was hot takes, some crazy takes. It got hot in Boston, especially on the radio.
I don't know how, but Bobby,
hot take. Brad's 500 in the playoffs.
Some of it is warranted, right?
People get really defensive.
Right. Some of it is warranted. I mean, obviously, I have no idea what everyone's saying on the radio, but listen, when you have a must-win game like you did in Game 4, and your team comes out like that, you better believe you're gonna get criticized until the next game. You know what I mean?
When your team has more talent and you almost pissed away last series, and then you lose this series, they look at the coach. That's every sport, every team. Why is Brad Teflon to this?
Because you don't have a better option.
It's not a better option.
That doesn't matter.
This is how sports works. When the team underperforms, they look to the coach always. And then Twitter, the coach doesn't throw the passes. We know that. We're not friggin' idiots. We know the coach didn't turn the ball over. It doesn't matter. That's the point. When players underperform, they look to the coach. It's not always his fault, but that's what happens.
There's a line, though. And I don't think any of you would have thought fire Stevens if they lost in 5.
We're not saying fire Stevens.
I'm not.
No, I know. I'm saying that's the line people start to cross. I mean,
sure, but you're always going to get those people. But there's also like the somewhat reasonable people who say, "Hey, wait a second, like something's off here."
That's fair.
The Celtics shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't have came out the way they did. They shouldn't be getting torched. The zone shouldn't be confusing the way it has been after all this time. You dealt with it with the Raptors, you're dealing with the Heat. And for you to say, oh, you can't criticize Brad because there's no better option, the two aren't connected. You know what I mean? Like there's no reason that like one should mean the other. And also I'm not saying get rid of Brad Stevens. I don't want that. I think he's the best guy for the job. But nobody knew Brad Stevens was on the radar when Doc Rivers went to the Clippers. So we don't really know what options are always out there, right? So a guy has to be held accountable when his team shits the bed The Celtics came out and they did what they had to do tonight, and if they can do that again on Sunday, listen, Brad's not coaching for his job.
No, he's not.
We're all sure of that.
No, John knows that. That's why he's pissed about it.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I never understand why it's impossible. Why you don't criticize? Like,
No, it's fair.
You have
it's
to
fair.
Because it's been overwhelmingly good, and we talk about the 3 conference finals. 18 still going to go down as an all-time disappointment. Last year, of course, criticized Brad to the moon. Last year was a disaster. But you look at 17. Overachievement, and then this year probably a little bit of an overachievement too, relatively.
That's what we said last game too.
Yeah.
Which is why we're not calling for his head, but you can still listen. Yeah, overachievement based on game one.
Defensive about it,
right? But based on game one of the season, yes, this is an overachievement. But based on what we know about the Celtics now, based on what we know the teams that they've played against, they should be beating these teams. So when they don't, you have to question what's going on behind the scenes. Is it a coaching issue? Is it leadership? Is it a player issue? I mean, we criticized Tatum, we criticized Jaylen Brown, we criticized Marcus Smart. We got to criticize Brad Stevens too.
Let's shift off Brad. You know who I thought was good tonight? Kemba. Despite the fact that the stat line wasn't really gaudy,
he had good spurts. Yeah,
he played hard all game, defense all game, aggressive all game. I thought Kemba had a pretty solid all around performance, even though he wasn't really lighting it up. But he was fired up, I thought, all game long. Certainly on the defensive end, we were killing him over that last time.
Yeah, less dribbling and quick decision making. I think that played a big part physically. He was making those decisions quicker. He wasn't dribbling out the clock. On the defense, he looked better. You saw him chasing a little bit here and there for the most part. There were some unfair calls, I think, on his part. There were a handful of calls that I think he earned. But for sure, I think we saw different Kemba on both ends. On defense especially, I think that's where I've been keeping my eye on the most. But Kemba, they're going to need offense sooner or later if they really want to, force Game 7 here.
Yeah, he's fiery, and he makes good decisions. He's had some big moments in the clutch in these postseasons, and of course he didn't get that opportunity tonight with the 5th foul. But I see him early in that third, the questionable call you talk about where he draws the offensive foul. He was fired up, and then there's some plays where he doesn't draw the 3-point foul where he probably should have, where he's getting intense, and he's not yelling at the refs, he's not putting himself at risk of a technical, but there's a fire underneath him, and we don't give him a ton of credit for the defense because the effort usually is a little futile for him, but the effort he gives, the positioning he puts himself in, it's all stellar. He's rarely out of place. Even when he gets lost, he finds a man, he communicates. He's been sensational. But, John, I'll throw this back at you. You actually mentioned this last postgame show. The closing lineup, Theis in for Kemba. They teased it in Game 4, got away from it quickly because they had the option to put Kemba in there. But tonight with 5 fouls, Brad got a convenient excuse to run those 4, Theis, and it was sensational. They blew Miami out of the water in those 5 minutes where they've been so bad. Yeah,
it with a lead, that lineup makes sense. When you need buckets, it's hard to have
a lead. Yeah,
but again, But they've pissed away these leads late. But we've been talking about that. With a lead, I like that lineup. I like that lineup.
We just talked about criticizing. I mean, who's gotten more criticism than Kemba Walker has over the last 2 series, right?
Toronto, especially.
Yeah, and you like you said, Bobby. I mean, these guys, they've got phones in the bubble. They've got
going to get this better, Jimmy? Who? I'm just kidding.
Exactly. I know. But my point is, he's seeing. I'm sure he's seeing some of it or hearing some of it, and he wants to go out there and prove that he belongs, on a winning team in this situation. And again, I mean, you can make the case that every game is the next biggest game of his career. I know that the guys on TV had like a mini debate about that earlier.
That was goofy.
Yeah, it was. Obviously, I'm so
I don't know.
Way too long.
I don't know.
UConn might have been his biggest game of his career.
Are we still
there's nothing like a Game 7 NBA playoff.
What time is it? Where's my slippers? Like they got completely.
Do we care about pace anymore?
Yeah. But you guys are talking about Kemba's defense, and I think we can all agree that might be like the weaker link of his game and of maybe of the 5 guys on the court. But it's when he's not hitting his shots, when he's not getting to the rim, when he's not opening things up for other guys, that's when it really hurts the team, right? So we said that right before the playoffs even started. We were like, well, Tatum and Kemba need to be on their games for the Celtics to have a chance. We didn't realize that Jaylen Brown was going to elevate his game to where he did. So that's kind of taken some of the heat off, I think, scoring-wise, at least some of these guys. But you still need effective Kemba Walker on offense to make up for some of those defensive lapses because let's be honest, I mean he's not ever been known for that type of a player, and he's not going to just become that type of player.
Yeah, and he's your pacer. Like, he's going to give you the steady shots, especially through these first halves where they haven't been as good. I thought Game 4, he was the only guy rolling in the first half. Tonight, similar situation, strong start, steady buckets. He just gives you that diet of open shots because he can create them for himself. It's just late game. You start questioning, do you want him in there? Do you not? It's a critical question. I think the only positive is that he's a guy who's going to roll with it if Brad decides to bench him in that spot. I mean, he's a consummate, anything you say, I'm going to do. And well, in certain situations, it might be necessary. I mean, he was a big reason they capsized late in Game 4. His defense was not good down the stretch of that game, and through no fault of his own, it's just his size.
Mm-hmm. No, that's true.
So
Tyler, but it's like it would be like an offense defense type thing.
Yeah,
if
Go to Herro. We're going to talk
what
about
I would like to see.
Nothing dramatic. Herro, they held him down tonight finally, right? 37-14. That was nice.
He saw a little bit of Jaylen tonight. He saw a little bit of everybody. But I mean, it also just wasn't. I mean, he was fine.
Well, then that goes back to Kemba.
37 last game. I mean, that's what it is. Let's face it, he wasn't going to come out and drop 30 again. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised he had 14. He finished with 14. I thought he had less.
Yeah, so, I mean, so I saw a jarring stat that when Kemba was guarding Herro, that he had 25 points on like 14 possessions, and that's like a fourth of the points that they scored in the game. So they got him against Kemba often, and he can shoot right over him. There were a few scary moments from him tonight. A couple of those shots were in garbage time, so they realistically held him under 10, which was huge. Yeah. The tricky thing with Miami, and this is what I've noticed about them at this point, Butler's been so passive. And it's worked for them. Tonight,
been doing that all season though, but yeah.
Tonight they needed him a little bit more up front, especially with Bam being a little slower. I just think the Celtics are in a good position if the Heat are saying, all right, Iguodala, Herro, and Duncan Robinson are going to be our lead guys offensively. The gap, if the Celtics lead guys are playing on their game, as we see tonight, is just massive. And Herro can be great. Good game tonight, great game in Game 4. But you need a little bit more from Butler. Just a little bit. Like, he hasn't been bad, but the assertiveness, especially in the fourth quarter, I thought he was going to start charging. They were down, 7, then 10, then 14, and he never came.
I think Jaylen needs to keep applying more pressure on him. Like, there's one thing I took away from this game. I just feel like
who's that, Herro or Butler?
Butler. I just feel like Jaylen Brown, like, he's become so important now. I mean, he's always been important, right, in this entire series. But I just feel like when he's flowing, when his offense is going, it's not only contagious, but it also opens up other shots. Like when he's sulking, and we saw it early in the series, right? When he's kind of like sulking that it was a Game 2 of the fight or whatever. Like it's almost like when he's in the corner, it helps Miami. It's like another defender for Miami, and he hasn't done that in the last couple of games. And in this game in particular, I just feel like he's been a lot more active on both ends. On the offensive end, it just really makes the offense look different, especially when the shots are going down. Like, that's what scared me a bit in the first half. But again, with this Celtics team, it's all about the second half. Like, we have no idea what team's going to show up after halftime.
I have no idea what to think going forward now.
Exactly, me neither. I'm like, just wake me up for halftime, and then I'll figure it out from there. Because at this point, like, you have to throw away the first half most of the time in these games because you don't know what you're going to see after halftime.
Passive was a good way to put it with Butler. I was surprised by a lot that like outside of Dragic, it seemed like there was almost everybody on the Heat was fairly passive tonight. I mean, if you look at the shot distribution, again, I know this is their team, but it was Adebayo 5 of 11, Butler 5 of 11, Crowder 5 of 12.
Yeah, like
Robinson 7 of 15, Herro 6 of 12. Like Dragic had the most shots with 17. Really friggin' democratic, they really shared it around, but nobody was, searching for it. I don't know. I guess again, that's their mentality.
I was gonna say that's kind of them, right? I mean, exactly. Like you'll get a hot guy like.
They've asked Butler about this a million times, and he says the same thing every time.
Yeah.
Right. And I asked you guys about this 2 nights ago. I'm like, is Butler going to do that Butler thing? Because if he does, Celtics could be in really big trouble. But I don't think Eric Spoelstra is going to do that because he hasn't done it up to this point. Of course, there is next game. There's Game 7. One of these games, he has to give him the green light, right? But then again, if he does do that, does that come off as a panic move? If you do that in Game 6, what's the You know, what's the attitude? What's the approach heading into Game 7? If you're Tyler Herro thinking, you know what, maybe that was my game and that's it. But I don't think they think like that. It's just not the culture in Miami.
Butler's just not a good enough shooter to be a guy you have to worry about offensively, really. I know he can be aggressive and get to the basket sometimes, but he is a pick his spots sort of player. If he's a guy who has the ball in his hand is trying to generate his offense, that's going to force him to shoot jumpers, which is what you want him to do.
Yeah, and the Celtics are well equipped to stop that too. If
and that's
going
fine.
One-on-one.
And they have the defenders. It can't be a Butler series because he's not equipped to take control. It's just not his thing. That's the thing.
I know, but the Celtics have dug themselves into a big enough hole where it's just one Butler game could really put them in. You know? Especially when the offense goes stale the way it did in the first half.
It's not even him like trying to score all the points either, though. Like he can get on the ball a little bit more because they leave it to Dragic. Butler floats. He can hit the corner three, but overall he's not a good 3-point shooter. So when he floats, when he's playing the back line, it does help the Celtics get in the paint and protect it a little more.
You know what else has been helping too? Jae Crowder's ice cold right now.
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say all
the Crowder threes.
That could keep going to the end of the series, man. He's really down on himself right now.
It's bad. They're hitting the back of the rim, yeah.
He's bad.
No, he's not. No, he's not.
I knew John was going to say that.
You have to watch this guy.
John never liked this guy. I mean, he came into the series for the first 2 games, 40%.
Okay? If you're Jae Crowder and you're averaging 20 points throughout the playoffs, throughout the first, 12 games, it's going to be a huge drop-off.
I don't know how this guy fooled so many people into thinking he's something.
Right. I'll tell you why.
Do we have to do this? Because I'll get into
this. A weird place, John. Some people have been balling, man. It's been a surprise.
The one thing Jae Crowder did was unseat Jeff Green. He ended the Jeff Green era in Boston, thankfully. I'll never forget like the game where Crowder came off the bench and Jeff Green was having a horrible game. And Crowder just dominated. And everyone was like, this guy Jae Crowder, he wants to play, he plays hard, he's a gamer. It was like everything Jeff Green wasn't showing that he was. And that kind of flipped the role, and that catapulted Jae Crowder into like Celtics legend status for a while.
He changes the feeling around the team a little bit. I mean, he did a good job in Memphis. He's done a good job in Miami. There's been a couple others. Oh, he didn't change the Cavaliers. Him and Isaiah were secret agents over there. But in most teams, he's improved.
But he is what he is. He's Jag Crowder, just another guy. Crowder.
Fine. He's perfectly fine.
Yep.
He's a 5-3. He's a 6 through 8 guy. Okay, when you're relying on him for stuff or for offense.
Ooh, man, did the Celtics rely on him too back in those days?
That's what I mean. Here, the Celtics did because they didn't have anybody else then, and that's why people liked him. But Miami shouldn't be if you get bonus Jae Crowder points or minutes or whatever, great. But that shouldn't be something you're counting on to a team like the Celtics.
Yeah,
right. No, that's true. I just think guys like that really like that. That's how Miami puts together wins against teams like the Celtics or whoever teams that they're measured up against where they seem like they're the underdog. Like guys like that, a couple threes, here and there, and they're into it. Jay was a little into it, but it seemed like he was all in his head. It feels like it was not the same Jay I saw in the first 2 games. That was a lot more exciting and, up in people's faces.
Well, what do you do? Go ahead, Bobby.
He wanted to attack Kemba, and he did at the end of the game, but they're getting other guys on Kemba, so he's just floating. I thought they're in a tricky position now because they're getting a little tighter. They've effectively benched Olenek, Jones. You see Solomon Hill, who gives them nothing. I don't know what Spoelstra's looking for there. So effectively,
try Haslam out.
I was just going to say that.
I was waiting for the Haslam timeout. I can't believe we saw it tonight. I was like, they got to do that one timeout where there's Haslam, the wily veteran who, these kids look up to.
Oh, Tyler Herro's like, whose dad is this?
They got smoked right out of timeout, too, after his big speech.
I've never met this guy.
Whose dad is this? Yelling at me on the bench.
Yeah.
You see the look Solomon Hill's got going too. It's a quarantine look. He's still got it going.
He's still in quarantine. He stays in his room. I swear.
Yeah,
like
he hasn't
doesn't even chill by the pool. Doesn't do nothing.
He hasn't paid a visit to William Rondo, the bubble barber.
How about speaking of Heat nobodies, because not nobodies, but guys who are just not part of the team anymore. Kendrick Nunn is completely
they've lost so many guys, Jimmy. They played 7 guys tonight, and you boil it down to the Celtics 7, to the Heat 6. you boil it down to both these teams' top 7. The Celtics have a little bit more in there. Like the strength of the Heat's supposed to be their bench, their depth. It's kind of like what happened to Toronto.
Playing.
Yeah. So
not playing. Yeah. So when you boil, you're right, Bobby. When you boil it down, when they shorten these rotations, you have to like the Celtics personnel over the Heat personnel. Now, whether or not these guys can put it all together and play as a team and play their style.
Sorry, this guy. I just looked at the comment section for a second. This guy, in all caps. None had COVID.
Did he?
Okay, buddy.
Oh, he did.
Bro,
Yeah. Well.
Hey, everybody's affected differently, Joe Sway.
Sorry, Jimmy. Sorry. Go ahead. That's true.
No. Hey, none had COVID, so hey, he's a survivor. So good.
He
shout
disappeared.
out to him,
Wasn't he all rookie second team? He's a 0 in the series, pretty much.
I thought he was first team. No?
He might have been. He was all rookie team, first or second.
I think Heat fans are completely out on Nunn. I can only imagine that they are. I don't know why they wouldn't be. When he did play, he was a complete.
It's incredible. He was the starting point guard.
In Game 3, they squeezed him in for some important minutes, and it didn't go well. It's weird to see them thin out the way they are. And all of a sudden, like, you even looking at the 5th spot in their rotation, we talk about Crowder, who was decent tonight. He gave them serviceable minutes. But you're seeing Iguodala, not what they expected from the trade, at least in this series. And then, that's it.
Iguodala? Can we talk about this guy?
Tatum smoked them.
I don't know if enough people are talking about how Iguodala got traded to the Grizzlies and refused to play. He never showed up for a single game, a single practice.
It was an awful look.
His Grizzlies teammates, young teammates like Ja Morant, those guys were publicly being like, F this guy.
They needed him too.
Right. Iguodala, if you don't want to be here, then get out. That's a good point, yeah.
The reason why Iguodala never showed up because they all assumed that the Grizzlies were going to suck. They weren't going to be part of anything. Well, it turns out, as we all know, the Grizzlies were a good team this year. And they drafted really well. They played together as a team. And they were like, screw Iguodala. You don't want anything to do with this. We don't want anything to do with you. He forced a trade to Miami. So
not only that, he made the Heat sign him to an extension.
Yeah.
So
they got him for next year.
That was like the amount of power he played.
I think it's an option though, but still, yeah.
No, he's fully guaranteed for next year.
We had to mention that.
All right.
We have to mention that on the show because I know there's some Heat fans.
No, you're right.
They need to know that this guy's a freaking fraud.
So Jayson Tatum talked after the game. Let's poll you guys. Who do you think he gave a shout out to for credit for the spark?
Deuce.
Are you giving us multiple choice or?
Nope. Deuce. Jimmy.
For the spark. Smart.
Bobby.
That's probably Marcus.
Brown.
Nope. Let's see.
Those guys was big time tonight. They play with a lot of effort and heart, and especially Enes. He's been in this league a long time, and he's in a unique situation where, never knows when he's going to play, but he's always ready to give us that boost, that spark. Both ends, especially rebounding and giving them the ball in the low post. And that just shows that he's how good he is, and he's a professional. He's always ready.
Enes freaking Kanter, the
didn't see it.
Boy.
Hey,
I was this guy some love, man. Show him some love.
Unbelievable Turkish tan. His tan game, A++ tonight.
Devastating.
This brings me back to something I said during the Toronto series. It feels like every ball handler on the team has like a center that they like setting their picks. Kemba's Theis.
Said that.
Smart's Williams, and Tatum loves Enes Kanter screens.
Like you have your personal catcher.
Yeah, no, I've noticed this.
You said the exact same thing.
Yeah. No, I find that interesting because it feels like Kanter sets these like ginormous wall screens that Tatum can burst to the rim off. And so, I think that's something they probably found in those Kanter minutes is you can get Tatum going a little bit too.
I got to give a quick shout out to my dad. He actually said that to me during the game that Kanter was the spark, and I just kind of laughed him off. And sure enough, he's going to be texting me now about that. So
your dad and Tatum.
Celtics got back to winning the big
the only
battle.
two guys that think that.
I'll say
I'm
this.
a big Kanter guy.
I am too. Bobby
Despite
is
the Greek,
Bobby's
the Greek
Kanter
Turkish
hater.
friction over the years. I'm a Kanter.
I'm very fair to Kanter, and I feel the same way about him. Brad does, as you can see.
Basketball nerds don't like Kanter. That's what it comes down to. That's really what
me
it
and
comes
Brad.
down to.
Me and Brad are like chums.
It's full defense.
The pick and roll. Which might be true, but whatever. I think he helped him out. I think
points are good. And then
remember when he first signed, everyone's like losing it because some people were confused. They thought just because he was so big that he could automatically protect the rim. Guys, we have rim protectors, and that's Kanter's like, no, you guys don't. Like,
people were scared he was going to be the starter, and he was for one game.
One game, that's right.
Yeah. That's how scared Brad was of Kanter. He started him for opening night and never started him again.
Was it OKC and Donovan with the hot mic?
Yep.
With Kanter, and he's like we can't have him out there right now. We can't have Kanter out there. He's just getting.
Unfortunately, that's going to be the defining moment of Kanter's career if the Celtics don't win it all this year.
We can't have Kanter out there right now.
It's too bad.
He's such a popular guy too.
Yeah, and he's been on so many teams now, and he's earned that reputation. Like, who else has had a reputation on defense like that of just being awful? Because I can't think of anyone who Isaiah maybe, deservedly so, but like I can't.
He tries so hard.
It's a different type of.
Doesn't have the feet for it. He just can't get back on.
It's so weird too, because he botched a couple layups tonight too. Like he
did.
Kanter's Kanter. You love him, you hate him, and it all happens in 5 minutes.
You take the good with the bad. You can say that about you can say that about Marcus Smart too.
I'm glad he's here. Right? I want him back next year. I do.
He does a lot of things. Like I said, the offensive rebounding. I mean, the things he does, nobody else does, and sometimes you need it.
He scores quickly too when he comes into the game. Yes. He was 3 for 3 within like 6 minutes,
and he just gets where he gets the ball and he reaches his body and he just moves people out of the way.
Those wings, yeah. So, and you know what? I hate. Go ahead, Jimmy.
No, just gonna say to what John just said about how he moves people. Maybe you have a banged up Adebayo, and you want a big body in there like Kanter to push him around and get a little physical with him, pick up a couple fouls, right? Maybe that's just part of what they're trying to do, make it uncomfortable for him out there.
Bam's more of a pick and roll defender than a post defender, so you got a point there. You want to play some isolation against the zone when you get the spots, and when they switch wings onto him, those guys don't stand a chance. I hated when the Heat went to Iguodala center last game.
On him a couple times, and same.
Yeah, and like this is something the Celtics have to start taking advantage of too. I mean, Duncan Robinson's guarding Brown. That's been an automatic foul. You're going to have Iguodala guarding Kanter if that's the way the Heat keep going.
And when you get Herro out there.
Yeah, like they got the Heat into foul trouble tonight, and that's something that could be a trend going forward if the Heat keep playing slim. I mean, this is crazy. Duncan Robinson at 4, Butler at 4, Adebayo at 5, Dragic fouled out.
Jaylen looked
Herro at 3.
Jaylen looked to attack when he knew he had the matchup, and then it got contagious. Tatum started to do it too. But yeah, you have to attack those. You have to attack those guys.
Yeah, but you know what else helps too? And when Kanter's playing minutes like that, Theis, and I was impressed with Theis. The fact that he played over 30 minutes and he didn't commit 5 or 6 fouls. When's the last time that happened? What are you clocking? 34? I just think he's been smartening up defensively, and maybe there is something to that. To Bobby's the Bobby bomb that he dropped a couple nights ago. Maybe his hand is banged up, because I remember he did get asked about it on Inside the NBA last night. I feel like he was like one of those. He answered too quickly.
It was coy.
Yeah, you saw it too, right? It was like, whoa, wait a minute. Even watch it again. I was like, that was a little. Yeah. So
Ira there, who covers the Heat, was pressing Spoelstra. He was like, "Is it his wrist?" Yeah. And Spoelstra was like, "Oh, it's his arm. He iced it. Like he's fine. He's gonna play."
It's bionic.
This is the series. I mean, Spoelstra and Stevens are in a contest to talk less in the series. Like Spoelstra did a 59-second pregame tonight. Like they aren't saying anything.
Oh, the other day he did a 21. It's the same thing,
Yeah, so like they aren't saying anything.
I was editing it. I was like, is that it? Right.
Yeah, these guys are so paranoid right now. This is what we talk about with the lineups. I know we're highlighting Brad a little bit more, but Spoelstra's all over the place too. They're like, we don't want to give the other side an inch strategically.
That's because Riley.
I feel like his approach.
Don't friggin' say a thing.
Right.
Yeah, true. I feel like in that first quarter, like Duncan Robinson not only got the green light, it was almost as if Spoelstra said, if you touch the ball, dribble up and shoot a three. It was like he was just forcing the issue, but in a good way. And I'm like, this guy it looked like he's aiming for 40. But luckily, like you said, Jaylen Brown got him into foul trouble, and that really rattled him offensively.
And he's gotten into foul trouble in every game, so that's a big problem for them too.
It's almost like he was looking at what happened in the last game, like that should be me. Like, damn it! Like if I can just stay out of foul trouble, I could have had the Tyler Herro night. The Tyler had
3 of 11 from 3, so he didn't even do the only thing he does well. He didn't do that.
Yeah,
he had 17 at halftime. I'm thinking he's going to keep going, but
he was the first quarter hero tonight. So
true.
I feel good about the series right now. I think
Isn't that amazing?
I think a lot of but the other side to that though is there's still so long to go. There's still so long to go, and they put themselves in such a bad position.
Each game, when they take the court, you think that the Celtics have enough to win, and so you always look at it one game at a time. And again, Miami played another shit game. Again, Miami's played not a great series. It's amazing.
No.
Again, maybe that's just who they are. But they, as you said, Bobby, they friggin' annihilate Milwaukee. The Celtics are a tougher matchup for them. They're not playing a great series. It's just those few spurts to win games 1 and 2. That's the whole series comes down to that right now.
Yeah,
those couple of stretches where the Celtics just collapsed and Miami hit everything. Without that in games 1 and 2, this is a completely different series.
My fear
game 1's been their best game.
Yeah, I'd roll with that. And my 2 fears, I guess, is the Butler thing still creeping. Like, when's he gonna go off? Because it feels like it's creeping. What's gonna be the Butler game? And that could be what seals the deal. Yeah. And then I look at
go off.
Not
like fourth quarter,
he kind of did it in game 2 with those steals out of the zone and the breakouts. But still, that was a little mild for being the front man. And I'm a little worried about Hayward too. Not worried, but you're getting modest production from Hayward. You're getting about
worse 3 games in than he did in game 1.
Yeah. So those turnovers hurt. No, the alternative's worse, but.
The alternative's worse, but he wasn't moving well at all.
Yeah, and 4 for 9, 10 points. You take it. His defense is fine. He rebounds. He's what
we said about him. We said
he's a -2 in this game.
The alternative is better.
Wow.
You're right, but it's still 30 minutes. If he was just eating semi minutes and whatever semi and Grant minutes, it would be closer to 21, 22. He's playing 30 minutes, which means you're putting him out there at times where you're looking for him to do stuff. And when he's not doing it, you start to wonder whether it's too many minutes.
ESPN even highlighted it. I just feel like when he's going through the motions in those ISO situations where he's looking to attack
offense.
Exactly.
He's not giving you that,
He's looking for a pass. Like, he's looking for the best option to give away the ball. Where before, when the star's on the bench, that's when he would eat. That's when he would start going off and just, putting up points with that second unit and being
he's taking it if it's there, and if it's. But he's right. But he did have he had a couple in the second half.
Late.
He did. That's true.
Yeah, he had a couple late. I mean,
he had 2. Oh, go ahead.
No, I give him credit. He's probably fighting through a little bit of pain. It's unlike Stevens.
Sure.
It's unlike Stevens to a guy out there that's not ready to be out there. But for him to play 30 minutes. I mean, that tells me that Gordon's telling him, like, let me play, let me go. I want to be out there. I want to contribute. I want to do whatever I can. Otherwise, he wouldn't be putting those minutes up. I mean, Brad's not opposed to going to Wanamaker or going to Semi or whoever, Grant, Mormon. You know what I mean? You just put those extra 10 minutes up in a bunch of different ways. So, I mean, we all said we're not going to get 100% Gordon Hayward when he comes back. We get Mike get closer to 70%. And I think that's kind of what you're seeing. And honestly, I'll take it because Gordon Hayward's. I don't know. We can talk about Game 4. I don't think Gordon Hayward lost you Game 4. I don't think he's going to lose you a game. I think he's going to help you win a game.
No, you're right about that. Yeah, there were only 2 stretches I think of tonight. He had a nice breakout, which was important. I mean, they trusted him to finish off the pass there, where Smart didn't do that earlier.
He got the star off the ground.
Yeah. So that was important. I think he had a layup in the
alley-oop.
It looks like my dog, like just trying to jump up for a treat. Like,
that is the Hayward special, right? Although we know his history on that play, which is tough. I mean, that probably sticks with him.
It's like when you're playing taps. That one guy is like, "Yo, man, you didn't get off the floor on that one. I swear, man. I did. Nah, man.
Yeah. Throw it up. Why?
Yeah. So he had the turn around the lane. He had a good one like that in Game 4 too. But then there was a bad stretch later where he took the 3 early in the clock before the 2 for 1, and then he had the turnover right after that. So that was a little bad stretch right there.
That was really bad.
But you're right. You're right, Jimmy.
Right at the end of the third.
You're getting 30 minutes of fairly just even basketball where you'd be negative. So right now, that's your takeaway with Hayward. Yeah.
The one thing we haven't talked about, and I don't even know if it's worth talking about, but Heat fans.
Carson Edwards?
Well, that's okay. There's 2 things we haven't talked about. Carson Edwards and NBA officiating. NBA officiating. I mean, John, you had a few.
I was about to. Oh, my God. Yeah.
Just in general. It's just they're missing calls on both ends. I mean, whether it's fouls, whether it's missed goaltending.
The Kemba 3 was what?
They gave the Celtics a lot.
Wrong every time. It was every time. Every challenge was like, they didn't do this, but he did this. I'm like actually, no, It was that and not that.
Both challenges were wrong.
It was offensive.
I was cracking up, but Mark Jackson was like, "What are we doing here? Why is this taking so long?"
They got everything
Van Gundy
wrong.
was pretty vocal too.
Yeah. They half and half so many calls on review where they're like,
"Yeah,
I'm looking at the."
Did he win the review or lose the review?
I don't know if it was a foul. Right. I'm going to reverse the call, or I'm going to say it was a foul, but I'm not going to have him shoot. And it was they half and half so many of them.
Remember Game 4? This is actually the rule, I think, but they reviewed the Butler charge, or the Tatum charge on Butler. And they overturned it, but they didn't give it to Miami. They did a jump ball. Yeah. Boston gets the ball back and scores right off of it.
It was like making shit up. They're like,
yeah.
I don't do it.
I was gonna say, the Toronto series, that was their go-to. It was, we don't know, jump ball.
Yeah.
Like, what?
No,
and
the two.
It's like. Sorry, go Bob.
The 2 plays that drove me crazy tonight, they called a kick ball on what was a hold on the ground. I don't know who could have kicked it down there with everyone on the floor. Then they called the Kemba 3-point foul on the floor. I'm like, what? But overall, the Celtics got a good whistle tonight. I mean, Tatum gets 14 free throws.
I didn't think Dragic was a foul. It's the same shit.
Yep, I agree with that.
He did it last series. I'm driving for a layup. My knee's going to go up. Get your friggin' nuts out of the way.
We're reviewing. We're at the
We've
point
gone
now.
over this before. Like, that's my space. I don't care that you happen to have your nuts right there where my knee is. Like, I'm going up with the ball.
Or it's like your face is right in front of this guy's elbow and you want to get an offense and you want to get a foul on the shooter. It's like, dude, your face is literally, I'm trying to take a shot.
Right.
Here.
My elbow goes up and you put your face there.
Right. So that to me
it's like walking into a punch.
The one thing that's really, really pissing me off is this hostile act reviews. Remember when it first happened, Celtics Bucks, they did the hostile act and we were all like, hostile act? Well, I've never heard of this in my life. What the hell is a hostile act? Now it's like 3 times a freaking game. Feels like we're getting hostile act reviews for just complete nonsense stuff that was nonsense. You would normally never review it. Is this a new thing now? We're just doing hostile act reviews?
Yeah, we just do it.
I mean, like, what was that even a hostile act review for? That was with,
it's like if anyone gets tapped in the head now, it's a hostile act.
You guys saw the end of the Lakers game.
Ruins the whole
too.
flow of the game.
It does.
The end of the Lakers game last night was special. Special officiating. Let's just say LeBron got some leeway guarding.
I've heard all about it. Well, because the Lakers went to the league about it, right?
Yep, they did that too.
What I don't understand about the official.
Shout out to Coach Malone for the best comment after the game, though.
Yeah. What was that?
He goes, maybe I don't know how to go take the right protocol about what the Lakers did, but maybe I need to do that, to get some help for the Nuggets.
Oh, right.
It's so. I mean, we talked about in the Toronto series. It's such a typical part of postseason procedure to file your formal complaint with the league or sit on the podium and take your fine just to get that leeway, the swing back.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I don't think that's been a big part of this series. It's just been bad both ways in the series.
When did refs start?
I agree.
actively looking to call a foul every time a guy shoots a three and leans into the defender. It's like
that's been driving me nuts more than anything. Yeah,
favorite thing in the world. They can't wait to call it. They're sitting there, like their eyes are this big, and they're like, "Did he step into his space?" And then they blow the whistle every time.
Some of them look to see if the ball's going to go in. It shouldn't have anything to do with it.
What the hell is so exciting to them about it?
And what does that tell you, John? This is the problem with the NBA now. Football.
Like, they gave me a new toy, something else to call this.
Yeah. Football. This happened to football 8 years ago or so. The rule book got so big, so complicated, so convoluted on like the pass interference that it just became such a shit show. They don't know what's what. It's inconsistent. And now you throw a replay in there in a league where there's so many calls that should be 50-50. You know what I've hated this year too? The spirit of the rule when someone comes behind and whacks a ball out of bounds behind someone has always been that the guy coming from behind, when they do that, it's out on them just because like that's the action they take. But now they minimize it. They look at the fingertips and, the guy in front of him had grazed off his fingernail, and they're reversing that. When all of basketball history, that's just been the guy from behind.
It's like the phantom tag at second base on a double
replay hasn't made the NBA better by any means.
You're not using it because they're, like you said, Bobby, they're not using it in the right situations. You know what I mean? And they're overusing it. They're
Tell me if the ball late in the game, the fingertips with the ball going out of bounds, that's a big one. You know, the fouls are impossible. You go frame by frame, like it's so hard to tell.
Charge block, yeah. These plays aren't meant to be.
Slow it down. It looks like a guy got in position because it's freaking slow motion. So it looks like he's standing there for longer. You know, like it's just not it doesn't make sense a lot of the time. All right.
No, it doesn't.
This is a rough game both ways for the officials. They got so many things wrong.
This is a rough game overall. I mean, have you guys ever seen the Celtics go from first quarter looking like that to what they did by the fourth? And we've given the Celtics some credit, but it largely was the Heat just standing around hoping that they could win this one by default too.
Running out the clock.
Yeah, this game was between this and Game 4. It was like, wow, but neither of these teams want to claim any of these games.
This was a weird one, and again, I have no idea who shows up next game.
Well, that's the thing, is because we all thought after Game 3 that the Celtics were going to come out like guns blazing for Game 4. It was the complete opposite. Yeah. So, fool you once, shame on you. Fool you twice, shame on me.
Threes.
Exactly. Oh, I mean, you read the text already. I mean, we were all beside ourselves with the way that
I want to read them again. Game. That was hilarious.
I just can't get over. Hey, give Brad a little bit of credit for whatever he said or whatever adjustments they made at halftime, because this was the best third quarter they've played, I don't know, ever. I mean, especially when you consider how awful they played in the first half, to come out and totally flip the script like that was
what's going to
expect.
What's going to tilt back in Miami's direction is the three-point shooting. They go 28 in Game 4, 19% from three tonight. And if you look at Game 4 outside of Herro, it was right down at 20% too. For a team that shot 38% from three all year, that's going to go up again. The overall field goal percentages in both teams tonight were within 0.01 of each other, I think. It was like for three?
45 period.
45.3. 45.2 for the Celtics.
Yeah, 45.3, 45.2. And the Celtics were only about 30% from three, too. So, I mean, shooting-wise wasn't it. I mean, the rebounding was huge in the Celtics' favor.
The layups killed the Celtics in that department, too.
So the number ended up being 12 and 11. At the end of the day, a few of those were late. Really, the Celtics took care of the ball all game long. Assists, both teams. I'm not looking at it now, but I think it was like 29-27. Actually, it was
nailed it.
Yeah. I was looking at them all earlier. I was like, it's pretty balanced across the board, with the rebounding being the only thing that had a huge edge there, and that helped a lot. But you're right. Celtics did miss quite a few layups again. Marcus Smart again driving me. I don't mean to go back to it, but like those two. How many times in transition did he just take the worst shot anybody could imagine a person taking in transition? Like step right.
No, seriously, it was weird. It was like he was trying to make a statement. It was odd. No, seriously. I didn't want to get all controversial here, especially after a win. But I was thinking that too.
Oh my God.
He rogue. It's like he's doing whatever he wants out there.
He's either foul.
Sometimes good, sometimes it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Either that, or he thinks degree of difficulty helps him because it takes the pressure off when he makes these crazy shots. But That was twice he didn't give it to Jaylen because he hates him.
The layup in transition was weird.
Fact.
He just twisted himself into a knot on that
He
play.
had a layup right there. Why did he twist?
He went from the right side to the left side, and his body was contorted this way, and he's trying to shoot over there with Bam on him. Like, why did you go across your body towards the defender instead of shielding it and like trying to go up this way?
The ref stared at him.
Oh my God.
It was. Are you serious right now? Like, that was the most obvious. Like, just go for the layup. It's right there.
When it got to 60-60, I said it could be 70-60 because they missed 2 layups in transition. Kanter missed 2 layups. There was another, I think it might have been Hayward missed a layup too. Like the string of shots that they missed at the basket in the second.
The one when he did that, and then the one when he was the breakaway, and he was just, I don't know, he just missed it. It wasn't. It was more of a short shot, I think, or it wasn't a layup attempt. I don't know, but he missed it. It was 2 feet away. Yeah.
Oof, Smart had quite the game on
Smart
both
though, 1 turnover. So give him that. Smart and Kemba each had 1 turnover. So when your guards are protecting the ball, that goes such a long way. So
the passing was crisp tonight too.
No, that was huge. The not turning it over. I mean,
because that's what we get mad at about the most.
They lose this game if they turn it over. Probably
that's
as close as it was.
Right. That's the killer more than anything. It's like, settling for those threes and turning the ball over on offense, it just kills you. And
Miami isn't that good of a half-court team. We see it again tonight. You keep them out of transition. They're like a 45%. They're not going to be 20% from 3, but they can't produce good threes in the half court either.
You got to get the second half effort of the Celtics, though, because when they get caught behind those screens, when they're, you get those, what we saw in the first 2 games, it's difficult because they can get going.
Things. It's Bam on the pick and roll, and when you're switching into the matchups that they want you to be in, those are the 2 things that get them burned in those half court games.
For sure.
When they're not doing that, and again, they it seemed like Bobby, you tell me, were they switching less tonight?
Celtics overall, with Theis out there, you don't have to switch as much.
Right. That makes a difference. They have the defenders to stay with these guys enough in the half court.
They probably got to scrap that best 5 lineup. Like, I wouldn't touch it. You got to switch too much. You're exposing yourself too much to Kemba. You lose your rebounding advantage.
When Gordon's not himself because he needs to be fully athletic and engaged and able. He's got to play bigger than he is there, and he's got to be able to rise up and like to he's just got to be able to do more than he can do.
See that next game though. I wouldn't be surprised. You see a different Hayward, or even the guy we saw 2 games ago.
Yeah, Jimmy, were we about to jump in?
Oh, I was going to say I think sometimes they switch too much. When they let Miami dictate their matchups too much on defense instead of fighting through those picks and staying with the guy that's best suited to guard. So I actually think the switching sometimes hurts them. Even though Brad loves to have the most versatile lineup out there, I still think Spoelstra is a genius too, and he can pick and choose which guys he wants to switch on to who. So I think sometimes it hurts the Celtics the way when they switch as much as they do. And the second thing I was going to say was I was going to ask Bobby, why does Smart hate Tatum so much?
I'm just going to do the Bill. I'm going to do the Bill. I'll do the Bill Belichick with that one. Just not answer it.
I wouldn't ask Belichick that. I think I would skip that question.
We got another one. It's Sunday, 7:30, thankfully. So slightly later. But we're back. So let's go around the horn and let's end this thing. What team comes out in Game 6, Josue?
If the Celtics limit 3-point shooting and get out to a good first half start, they don't have to have a big lead, but just not what we saw tonight because you're not going to survive that second night. I say the Celtics. If not, forget it. Miami wins. Series over.
Yeah, if Bam is still not himself, if you can play Theis and have him be as effective as he was tonight, Miami's a little bit thinner, loses one of their biggest advantages. This one's going 7.
Jimmy?
I just can't quit you, Celtics. I just can't quit you. I just can't. Every time I'm ready to walk away, you pull me back in for a little bit more. So I got to go with the Celtics here for the same reasons I've consistently gone with them. I think when they're playing their best basketball, they're a much better team than the Heat is. We saw that a little bit tonight in the second half. The only thing I'm concerned about is consistency. I mean, we saw how they came out in Game 3, put up a stinker in Game 4. They come out playing well second half of Game 5. I have no idea to expect Game 6, but I'm going to trust that they want to ride this momentum. I will say this. The Heat better treat this game like a must-win because I don't think they want to get to a Game 7 with the Celtics after 2 straight wins, and the narrative starts to change, and the pressure is now suddenly all on the Heat. So if you're the Heat, you definitely want to win this game.
Surprise again, Jimmy. Not you, Jimmy Butler. If he gets if he gets in the zone, or if he just feels any type of itch to take over and say, you know what, I'm going to bring this team to the finals, it's going to happen.
I'm just not worried about a Jimmy Butler game.
But
I'm worried about that too.
That doesn't necessarily mean a Heat win, right? Like if he gets too into it, that could be a good thing for the Celtics too.
If Jimmy Butler is taking over the offense for the Heat, it's because nobody else has anything going, and that's bad for Miami.
I'm more worried about like Dragic. You know what I mean? Like that dude.
Right.
He's a killer.
I'm way more worried about guys who can light it up from all over the place than Butler taking it to the hole and drawing a couple of fouls. That's just
Yeah, it's not going to look like that.
It might look like that, Bobby. That's the thing. Like he'll do it little by little, and then next thing you know, it's a 6-point game.
Well, what he'll do is he'll get to the free throw line, and then if the Celtics are feeding turnovers like they've been, that's where he'll kill you too. Like it's not going to be him. Yeah, he'll run the pick and roll too. I'm surprised they didn't do that more tonight. So my biggest worry is this back and forth we've been talking about. Like the Heat throw a new wrinkle in, and all of a sudden Brad changes what he's doing, what worked tonight. There's an inconsistency in lineups.
Another zone.
There's an inconsistency. Yeah. Who knows? Like you might see Nunn pop back in there. They might do an Olenek Bam thing. Like they didn't run a lot of zone tonight, believe it or not. That was another thing. I mean that didn't work well in their favor. So they probably will bring back more zone next game.
They will. For sure they will. My thought I share with Bobby, I think if Bam is legit hurt, that changes the whole thing. Because that was the clear edge Miami had in the series from a personnel standpoint. If they don't have
the series started,
if they don't have that anymore, it's not as pronounced. That hurts them a ton. The other thing I will say, just based off of our early game text barrage and just watching Celtics Twitter meltdown, when the game.
There was off-season talk at halftime.
Yes,
I was like, geez, guys.
The reason I'm bringing this up is just to show what an awesome job the NBA has done to make this real. It's playoff intensity in the
feels
game.
Real.
With the fans, fans are losing their minds the way you would when the real games are going on. It feels real. It's everything about it has been an amazing job. Like we're deep into the playoffs here, and it feels like you're deep into the playoffs.
That being said, John, I had the tweet ready. But when the Celtics lost tonight, I had the tweet ready. Fake season, anyways. Like I was just going to tweet that fake season, anyways. Doesn't even matter. That's happening regardless. Yeah.
Fact.
No.
Fake season. If they win, then it was the most impressive.
If Miami and Denver were in the finals, we'd be like freaking fake champion.
All this for Miami, Denver.
Look at these
really
Miami, Denver fake. LeBron, Celtics not real. Doesn't count.
The Celtics pull it off. It's the most impressive. It's the most impressive win, in my opinion. That you could have. It's more impressive than a real season because of everything they had to go through.
Well, this is what's different about this year. If you do think the Celtics could come back and win this, 3-1 comebacks in the same postseason. That's a little nutty.
This would be the
bubble.
This would be the third. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's going to be 4.
Yeah. Then we'll have Denver, Boston. We didn't even think about that one.
Yeah, that's going to
be fun too.
Yeah. Oh, the Celtics will probably lose that series too.
Game 6 Sunday, we'll be here for it. The same crew, Jimmy Toscano.
7:30. Woo!
7:30. That's nice. Joe.
Celtics win that game.
We may have our guy, our Emerson guy. I think he's hiding right now. Dylan. He'll be back for more. And Bobby Manning. Celtics blog, CLNS Media. Thanks everybody for watching. Game 6, maybe Game 7. Let's do it.
One game at a time.